All right, let's dive right into a really fascinating political puzzle. Every election season, we hear the same names, the same questions about who's next in line. But today, we're going to look at why the people who seem like the most obvious choices for prime minister, well, why they often don't get the top job.
It's a pretty logical question, right? You see a powerful state leader, a brilliant strategist, or a super popular minister, and you just think, of course, they're the one. But here's the thing about Indian politics. It has this kind of counterintuitive secret. The system itself doesn't always reward raw power. And we're going to break down the structure behind why that is.
Okay, so to really get this, we have to get one crucial distinction crystal clear. Political power is not, and I repeat, not, the same thing as prime ministerial promotability. They might seem like they go hand in hand, but in the complex, kind of messy machinery of Indian democracy, they are two very, very different things. So here it is, the fundamental mind shift we need to make. The road to becoming prime minister isn't about collecting the most fans or grabbing the most power. It's actually a process of elimination. The system is designed, almost naturally, to filter out candidates who generate too much resistance, too much pushback from too many different places. And this slide really lays it all out. Look at the left side. You've got all the classic signs of a political heavyweight, right? Control over the party, getting the vote out, media buzz, command over the administration. A leader can have all of that, but they can still be missing that one single thing on the right, promotability. And that is all about being broadly acceptable to a huge, diverse, and very often divided country.
So how does this whole filtering thing actually work? Well, it's not random. It really functions through three specific structural hurdles that pretty much every aspiring prime minister has to clear. And understanding these hurdles, that's the key to seeing why the political game plays out the way it does.
So here they are. First up, you need national acceptability. You can't just be a hero in your own backyard. Second, you got to have coalition comfort. Potential partners need to feel they can work with you. And third, you need low institutional resistance. You can't be someone who makes the country's core institutions nervous. Failing just one of these can stop a career in its tracks. Failing two, it's pretty much game over.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory, right? We can actually see how this framework applies to real-world leaders. It's really important to remember, though, what we're looking at here are structural archetypes. We're not making personal judgments about any of these individuals. So first, let's look at what the source material calls the strategist ceiling, or the kingmaker problem. This is such a classic political paradox. It's where leaders who are absolute masters of strategy, the ones who build the party machine, can actually be seen as too powerful for the top job itself.
His influence on the organization is massive, no one denies that. But this is exactly where those structural hurdles pop up. When you're seen as a powerful enforcer, it can create a lot of anxiety among potential coalition partners and even key institutions. So you end up failing hurdles 2 and 3. It becomes that classic case where your maximum influence is actually from behind the throne, not sitting on it.
Okay, next up is the regional titan problem. This is another common one. This is where a leader is incredibly, rock-solid popular in their home state. They command just immense authority there, but that same strength just doesn't seem to translate onto the national stage.
And this slide really shows us why. Her strong political identity absolutely fires up her base, but it can also create really strong opposition everywhere else. See, national leadership needs a whole different skill set. It's about having a kind of political and maybe emotional fluency that connects with all of India's diverse regions. And that's a very different game than being a regional mass leader.
In this pattern, it's not isolated. It shows up across all sorts of leadership styles. You have the age and timing trap, where someone might be respected for their competence as an executor, but maybe the political momentum just isn't there. Or you get the feeling that someone is a completed chapter, that their story's already been written. Then you've got cultural and linguistic ceilings, or even just a plain old trust deficit with potential allies, which in coalition politics is a huge, huge hurdle.
So, what's the one thread that connects all of these examples? What's the final logic here that pulls this whole thing together?
Ultimately, and this is so important to get, the system isn't making a statement about a leader's quality or their competence or even their raw power. It's making a very practical, almost mechanical calculation. It's just filtering out the candidates who create too much friction in a really complex political machine. This one sentence, from the source material, just absolutely nails the entire idea. It's not about who gets the loudest cheers. So often, the winner is the candidate who is the least unacceptable to the largest number of people. They're the one with the fewest vetoes stacked up against them.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on.
When we're trying to figure out who's going to lead, maybe we shouldn't be looking for the biggest personality or the most dominant force. Maybe we should be looking for something a lot quieter, but way more important: the best fit for a deeply complex and divided system.